everybody. I call to order this meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission for April the 24th, 2025. We will start with a roll call. Commissioner Harrison,
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay's present, Commissioner Orr,
Present.
Commissioner Mann,
Here.
Commissioner McLemore,
Present.
Commissioner Williamson,
Present.
and Alderman Peterson.
Here.
Okay. Absent tonight are Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Franks. This part of the meeting is for, at least for me to tell you about citizen comments. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you would like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until the citizen comment period for that item. For all citizen comments, you need to fill out a speaker card on the back table and hand it to staff, Tia, on the end of the row here. Tia will take your speaker cards and deliver them to me. And then when it's your time, when I call you, you can come up to the microphone at the lectern, give us your name and address, and then we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. So I'm going to hold, if you go ahead and get your cards to Tia, then I'll hold them, and if they identify that you're speaking to a specific item, I'll call you when it's time. So are there any citizens who would like to speak to the commission at this time on an issue or a matter that's not related to an agenda item? Okay, seeing none. The next item is approval of our minutes. Consideration of approval of the March 27th, 2025 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission minutes. Is there a motion?
Second.
Wait a minute. Ann? So Alderman Peterson made a motion for approval, seconded by Commissioner McLemore. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, by roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindsay votes yes, Commissioner Orr,
Yes.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved. We have a staff announcement, I believe. Amy? Okay.
Thanks for reminding me. The Williamson County Growth Plan was finalized in late 2024, and an Envision Franklin amendment will be brought before Planning Commission at the June 26th meeting for the territory that was added into the Franklin UGB. Long-range planning staff will hold open house office hours and be available from 8 to 5 at the Eastern Flank facility on Monday, April 28th. That's this coming Monday from 8 to 5 to meet with property owners and interested citizens impacted by the UGB update. The meeting is targeted for the Goose Creek property owners east of I-65. Please stop by if you would like to discuss with staff. No appointment necessary. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Eric Connor tomorrow. And his information can be found on our website.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
Monday from 8 to 5,
Monday from 8 to 5 at the Eastern Flank building.
Eastern Flank Building.
Yes.
Okay? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is for the consent agenda. This is consideration of approval of items that are considered to be non-controversial and will be handled in one motion and vote by the commission. So the items on tonight's commission consent agenda are items 3 through 14 and items 20 through 22 on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner McLemore. Okay, we have a proper motion for approval by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner McLemore. By roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes on the approval of the consent agenda. The next item is item number 15. These items, the next 4 items will run together. They're on the same project. So items 15, 16, 17, and 18. We'll start with item number 15, consideration of resolution 2025-24, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the annexation of property located west of Hillview Lane and north of Coleman Road at 1247 Hillview Lane by the City of Franklin, Tennessee. We have a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting a plan of services for property located at 1247 Hillview Lane. Resolution 2025-24 is a City of Franklin drafted plan of services for property being considered as part of the proposed request for annexation, which is Resolution 2025-25. The plan of services outlines how infrastructure will need to be provided to serve the property of just over 311 acres. The property is non-contiguous to city limits, but is within the southern portion of the Franklin urban growth boundary. The property includes 1 parcel and lies within the SW1 basin as defined in the City of Franklin Sanitary Sewer Basin Study. The basin is identified as a midterm annexation capability area due to the developable acreage being severely limited and the area's ability to be served by water and sewer. Water availability will be provided by HB&TS. The draft plan of services details no major concerns in providing infrastructure and services to the property. No additional personnel or equipment will be necessary for fire, police, or sanitation. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2025-24. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Now's the time for public comment on this item. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Okay, I'll call a couple of names and y'all can kind of queue up and be ready to speak when it's your turn. Jay Palm and Barry Sullivan and Rob Dodson. If y'all would come forward and be prepared to speak.
I'm Barry Sullivan. Might be a little out of order. I think
No,
you
you're
called
good.
my name second. I'm a lifelong resident of Williamson County and currently own property at 1117 Incinerator Road and have previously owned property on Lula Lane. And of course, it's kind of rural there, but it's a lack of infrastructure, water, sewer. I've looked at this project on the Hillview Lane property, and it's a good project, I think, in my personal and professional opinion. And the infrastructure in particular, where Coleman Road and Henpeck Lane's concerned, that'll be a huge change for the area. And I just want to say I'm in support of the project, and I think it's a good project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Jay Palm?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the first time I've had a chance to speak in a venue like this, so I'm kind of uncomfortable. I live at 510 Vintage Green Lane in the Shadow Green townhouse development, and I've been aware that this development is coming forward. I'm concerned about the ways in and out. It's kind of a learning curve for me, but that's a concern to me. I also am relatively new to Franklin, and I kind of found my way walking one day. I walk a lot, but I walked up Hillview Lane for the first time, and I thought I'd come to a new paradise. The way the trees drape, and it's just a beautiful entrance. And I do run into a number, walk alongside other people that enjoy that walk as well. And I can't imagine that it maybe has any bearing on major decisions such as this, but just to know that it's a beautiful landscaped area, and I would hope if that Hillview Lane is changed in any way, that it can be done in such a way as to kind of keep some of the natural beauty that we see alongside that way. That's about it. Just I was asked if I would make a comment, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palm. Rob Dodson?
Hello, Rob Dodson. I live on Hillview Lane, and we've been coming to meetings of the mayor and board of aldermen and dealing with the different approvals that have gone on this for, it seems like 6 months, probably longer than that. It seems like we're dying a death of 1,000 cuts. We first hear that we're going to initiate annexation, but this doesn't mean anything. We're not necessarily going to do anything. And then we get to where they want to amend the Envision Franklin plan, and the sentiment is that, well, this doesn't hurt anything if we amend the Envision Franklin plan because it doesn't mean we're necessarily going to do anything. And all of this time, we've never been told what the ultimate plan would be for Hillview Lane until now. And now it's clear that the ultimate plan is to use Hillview Lane as the primary access into this development, which will destroy the character of our neighborhood, which will add a tremendous amount of traffic into our neighborhood, which right now is quiet and peaceful and a very small road. And it will also end the use of the tree canopied lane coming in and out of our neighborhood, which we were told that was something that everybody wanted to preserve. Well, not anymore. The staff comments indicate that the entrance that they told us would be the primary entrance on Coleman Road can't even be used, has to have an emergency access gate on it to prevent use of that road until such time as all of the improvements are fully completed. Now, the first thing that they are going to do is they're going to go and tear our road up and improve our road, cut down our trees. And that's the first thing they're going to do, because they can't do that under the comments from staff until they can't do anything until that's done. So what we are faced with now is exactly what we've been told wasn't going to happen. And I've got a lot more comments, but I'll wait and raise them during the next two presentations.
Okay, thank you, sir. Emily Magid and Jean Lovell.
I'm Emily McGidd, and I live at 1208 Hillview Lane. Members of the Planning Commission, whatever the designation you assign to this development, please leave Hillview Lane out of the equation except for emergency use. It is a designated heritage road surrounded by history and nature at its best. A charming tree-lined lane, it is unique in character, and if used by the developers, would morph into just another street. It would be horrible. The peace and tranquility of the surrounding homeowners would be greatly encumbered by this expansion. It is not a necessary route, as the developers have obtained two other means of entrance and egress. As I stand before you tonight, I wish to impress upon each and every one of you the importance of keeping Hillview Lane as it has stood for more than 100 years. And like I said the last time when I spoke before you, please don't pave paradise to put up a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jean Lovell.
My name's Gene Lovell, and my wife Angie and I live on Hillview Lane. I'm just I guess I'll just kind of reiterate some of the things that Mr. Dodson and Ms. McGidd just said. Like everyone, our concern is the traffic, and so it's hard. I haven't seen the traffic studies. Okay, so but I guess you can assume with 240-something living units, along with the hotel and businesses. You'd have 600, maybe 500-something, 600 cars a day that would be added to the traffic. And I would assume most of them plan on using Hillview, and we hope that that just doesn't happen. I think our comments are more about ingress and egress, and hoping that Hillview Lane doesn't become the primary, or any, other than, like Ms. McGitt said, just except for emergency vehicles. Also, there's another development, Garrett Farms, that if you are at the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Hillview, if you take a right and head south toward Murray County, just a little ways down the road, there's another 197 living units that are being developed now. It's getting real crowded, okay? And I know all y'all have been stuck in traffic on Columbia Avenue. I mean, it is, and I've lived here 72 years, and I've heard, and it's been widened a little bit in that period, okay, but not much. And if you're in the early morning, midday, or anywhere around 5 o'clock, and if you're heading from town and you're heading south, it's going to take a minute to get through Columbia Avenue. And so I really don't see how adding that much more traffic is just daunting to me. Right now, it's a conga line just trying to get out anyway. So, thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Lowell. That's all the speaker cards I have. Does anybody else? You have another? Great, thank you. Olaf Estelle?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for letting me talk here quickly. You are the planning committee, so you are the experts in planning. So we urge you, as the community around this area, that's the topic here, to plan ahead. Plan for the worst case scenarios. And when you have good solutions for that one, then it's okay to go ahead. So I'm Olaf Isler. I live in 1801 Shadow Green. That's nearby, and we show solidarity with all the people that live in and around like Hillview Lane, because we're affected as well, and it's a great area to take walks, etc. One of my neighbors there wasn't able to come here because we thought the topic comes later, which is fine, so I appreciate that also. And so she's asking me to share, please take into consideration the well-being of your current loyal Franklin residents and how this annexation and development will affect them before approving. There is no clear traffic remediation, at least as far as we could see, of the already clogged roads around this development area. There will be material loss of quality of life for everyone who works, lives, goes to church and school there. Do we really need another huge development? Franklin is growing at a high rate of speed, and the city, county, and state infrastructure cannot keep up with it at this current pace. So I understand also that the economic well-being of the town is, of course, important in order to do all that one. So we need to be creative in finding such solutions to do this in the right way. I understand that there's a lot of money to be made by everyone to approve this plan, but I plead with your conscience to be led to make your decisions for the city of Franklin by your care and protection of the city and its residents and the areas around it, the nature around it. Please do not approve this ordinance. So that's my friend Abby Couton, who lives also in the building where I am. So I urge you to please consider worst case, and we'd be happy to discuss at other points in time and give input. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Is the applicant ready to make a presentation at this point?
Hi, good evening. My name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the applicant. I'm a landscape architect and land planner. I'm here tonight with Adam Balish with Boyle, and we have a brief presentation that we'd like to go ahead and give now that will address not only plan of services, but also zoning and the development plan. So we'll keep it brief, but Adam.
Sure. Hi, as Greg said, my name is Adam Balish. I'm a partner here locally with Boyle Investment Company, the proposed owner and developer of the Harlan project. Want to stress, most of you all know this, but Boyle is local. I've lived and worked in Franklin for 20 years. It's where I've chosen to raise a family and be involved in the community. And it's where Boyle has chosen to make investments in some of our largest real estate projects in the city of Franklin. It's because of this local commitment that the new projects mean so much to me and my partners. We understand the city's goals and objectives and share those because we are part of the community too. It's why we want to help Franklin grow while also being hyper vigilant to the needs of delivering infrastructure first, making sure that the areas where we develop can handle the projects while also supporting the community's vision as set out in Envision Franklin. With this particular project, we couldn't be more proud to work with one of Franklin's most caring and thoughtful families, the Harlans. If you're from Franklin or have been here any length of time, you will have heard that name and know of the charity, commitment to preservation, and hospitality that's behind that family. Whether that is from visiting the park at Harlansdale Farm, where they preserve 200 acres with the city of Franklin to form Franklin Central Park, whether your kids are eating lunch every day at the Harlan Student Center at the center of BGA, or whether you may have bought your loved one's wedding gifts or china at the Registry, a beloved retailer on Main Street that the late Barbara Harlan started. It's with this spirit that we look to build a community that is inviting, rooted, thoughtful, and captivating, and helps the Harlans preserve yet another farm in Franklin, but this time even larger than Harlansdale. It is because of these goals and understandings that we work so closely with staff to create conditions for our projects so that we can deliver infrastructure in phases alongside the developments we create. This has been our track record at Meridian, Berry Farms, and McEwen, and why we 100% support the recommendations from staff for delivering infrastructure first at Harlan. Greg Gamble will lead our discussions tonight, but I'm happy to help answer any questions that you all may have to me or my team, and we appreciate your time and consideration. Did I just break the...
This first slide shows the entire area that's being proposed for Harlan. The 311 acres, which is the large piece of property, that's currently within the city of Franklin's urban growth boundary. It's also currently zoned MGA1 in Williamson County, which is 1 home per acre. The other property here, 65 acres, that property is in the county. Its zoning is RD5, which is 1 house for every 5 acres. You see that the urban growth boundary line follows right here along the southern boundary of the 311 acres. The city of Franklin's contemplation through this process is for a development plan only on the 311 acres. That's the property that is within the Village Green Design concept in Envision Franklin, and that's the property where, when we calculate 70% open space, we're talking about the 311 acres. In this policy, the city of Franklin has established guiding principles to preserve the rural character of the land while allowing clustered village with small development footprint. It's intended for developers to create authentic villages with limited mixed use and a diversity of housing. As planners, in this concept, we start the master planning process by first identifying the areas of land that should be preserved, set aside, and left in their natural state. The property that is 65 acres to the south, it will be proposed as a subdivision in the county. This shows 8 lots that are between 5 and 8 acres in size. The city of Franklin aldermen have approved sewer availability for these 8 lots, and that'll be provided through the development to the north. Fair and Way is planned in the very first phase of development and will be the primary access to Harlan constructed from Coleman Road. And this will also be the construction access for the entire development. It will have a 50-foot right-of-way. It will be built to the City of Franklin standards. That right-of-way will be deeded to the City of Franklin. Even though it's in the county, the city will own that right-of-way and will oversee the maintenance of it long-term. Just to the north of Fair and Way enters into the City of Franklin here at the bottom. There's a small cluster of homes that create an intentional threshold into the village. The village, located here, will offer a diversity of housing, small-scale retail, maybe a general store, and neighborhood amenities. Hillview Lane will extend to the south, terminating at the Grand Lawn, where townhomes and condo flats are mixed with small mixed-use buildings. The lawn is anchored by an 80-room boutique inn and cottage, labeled as B on this map. So that's right here in this upper corner, labeled B. There are 3 roads that are extended to the property line: to the north toward Incinerator Road, then to the east and west. All 3 of these roads are for future connections and will not connect to the roads beyond the boundaries of Harlan development today. Homes that are planned for Harlan include large estate homes on lots over 2 acres in size on the edges of the village. The homes within the village are on smaller lots that are between 70 and 100 foot in width. These lots are almost twice the size of lots at Berry Farms. Village Green is a perfect description of what Boyle has envisioned for Harlan. An authentic village should look and feel like it has been built over time, with a diversity of architectural homes and sizes and design. It should have open spaces that are central gathering places for community to happen. It should have a thoughtful amenities that are shaped to create a sense of place. These may include a town hall, a tea room, a general store, as well as outdoor recreation and play. The architectural character of homes within Harlan is intended to include time-tested, authentic Tennessee vernacular styles with high style of detailing and welcoming street forms. On this slide, you can see the intentional mixing of residential home types from single-family homes to townhomes across the street, with a pocket park thoughtfully planned to create community spaces. As stated, the Harlan PUD, the development plan, will preserve over 70% of the property, which equates to 217 acres. The density of the development, including both the Harlan Farm and the property on Coleman Road, is 0.67 homes per acre, well below the county's established base zone district. Nature trails are planned to wind through the trees, over the ridge tops, and back to sidewalks. These trails are a part of our parkland dedication agreement with the City of Franklin and will be accessible to the general public. Those are the purple lines that you're seeing through here on both sides. Sidewalks are planned along the roadways and provide pedestrian connectivity throughout the plan. A 2-mile multi-use path will be accessible from Columbia Pike, down Hillview Lane, along Fair and Way, and connect to Coleman Road. Early in our due diligence, we discovered discrepancies in the HHO line, shown here in blue, because this area along the south was not previously included in Franklin's urban growth boundary. Now that it is included, we worked with staff and are proposing a revision to the HHO line to conform to city standards, and that's shown here in orange. So this area here in orange is outside of those steep slopes. This regional context map illustrates where road improvements will occur. These are improvements that are planned to be completed within the first phase of the village. This first road improvement is Coleman Road, where turn lanes will be added on Coleman Road for Fair and Way, and this will be constructed with and completed within phase 1. this section of Coleman Road here, these improvements will also be built to City of Franklin standards. The second is at the intersection of Coleman Road and Columbia Pike, and Henpeck Lane and Columbia Pike. Boyle will be required to provide 2 synchronized traffic signals before the 51st home is built. Both of these intersections have failing traffic movements today and have significant backup along Columbia Pike. When adding expected increases in traffic now and in 2032, we start to see traffic backing up over 3,000 feet on Coleman Road in the morning and over 4,000 feet in the evening, with delays between 40 and 60 minutes. This is without Harlan and without the road improvements. In addition to the coordinated signals bringing the level of service on Coleman Road up to a level of service B in the AM peak hour and C for the PM peak hour, the level of service for Henpeck will be brought up to a level of service B in the AM peak and D in the PM peak. This is a significant improvement for this intersection, even compared to today's traffic volumes. So that's projecting forward to 7 years. Boyle will be constructing Mac Hatcher Parkway and Columbia Pike intersection to its full plan design with 2 entering lanes and 4 exiting lanes. The stretch of Mac Hatcher between Columbia Pike and Lewisburg Pike currently has over 13,000 trips per day per TDOT's counts. During the AM peak hour, Harlan will contribute 30 eastbound trips and 16 westbound trips on Mac Hatcher. During the PM peak, Harlan will contribute 29 eastbound trips and 44 westbound trips. Right now, there's only 1 through lane at each leg of the intersection of Mac Hatcher Parkway and Columbia Avenue. So only 1 lane going north, 1 lane going south, 1 lane going east, and 1 lane going west. With the full build out shown here, there are 2 lanes for each leg. I only have like 1 more minute.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Go ahead.
Going east, west, Mac Hatcher's extended with 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south, 2 lanes going east, and 2 lanes going west. This will help reduce the congestion at this intersection, improving the laneage. Approximately 20 years ago, TDOT organized a local committee as a part of a context-sensitive design study for this segment of Mac Hatcher. The results of the CSD were recommendations to convert the tree tunnel area of Hillview Lane to a multi-use path. Our plan matches the results and recommendations of the TDOT plan, preserving this part of the tree tunnel on Hillview Lane as pedestrian and bicycle traffic only. Within the existing 50-foot right-of-way of Hillview, we are proposing an 8-foot multi-use path, curb and gutter, 11-foot travel lanes, and guardrails in a 2-foot shoulder to replace the existing 26-foot of asphalt and roadside ditch. You will see from the existing photos how these improvements would fit within the existing lane. Here's the multi-use pedestrian path and 2 11-foot travel lanes. For the utilities, there will be a pump station that will be added on Harlan in this location, and sewer lines are represented here in orange. And there will be a new HB&TS water line that will be connected from this purple existing water line to the water line that is on Coleman Road. With that, I'll address the modification of standards at the development plan, but happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Okay. All right, so a proper motion is going to be a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So I'll ask at this point if anyone would like to make a motion on this project.
Move for approval to the board, mayor, and alderman.
We have a proper motion by Commissioner Orr for approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mann. Is there any discussion?
I'll
I'll have some comments, Mr. Chair, at a different item associated with this, just not at
Okay.
this stage.
Okay. Any comments, any further comments? This is for the adoption of the plan of services. Yes. Commissioner McLemore, what?
No.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, by roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion carries. The second item, also for the same project, this is consideration of Resolution 2025-25, a resolution to annex one property consisting of 311.21 acres located west of Hillview Lane and north of Coleman Road at 1247 Hillview Lane, and not adjoining the city limits within the southern part of the Franklin Urban Growth Boundary, the UGB. There's a staff presentation. Joey?
Thank you. The property being considered for annexation is located west of Hillview Lane and north of Coleman Road. It is non-contiguous to the city limits and is within the southern limits of the City of Franklin's urban growth boundary. The subject property requesting annexation is within the Village Green design concept as defined by Envision Franklin. It is the intention of the applicant to develop the property into a mixed-use neighborhood with a variety of housing options, commercial space, and a hotel. The plan also includes 220 acres of open space. A zoning and development plan accompanying the project are also on tonight's agenda. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve Resolution 2025-25. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this one? And the applicant has reserved comment at the item number 18. Okay, please step to the microphone and identify yourself.
Rob Dodson again, Hillview Lane. I just fail to understand how this project is in the best interest of Franklin and the citizens of Franklin right now. I mean, the traffic on Columbia Avenue and Mac Hatcher is at a standstill. Every traffic signal intersection in that whole area of town is failing right now, and we're proposing adding 250 some odd more houses, which yield about 500 more cars, and how that's going to yield 40 trips a day down Hillview Lane is beyond me, and how 500 cars are going to come in and out of that place and only be 40 trips a day. That's just preposterous. And the comments from staff make it clear that they're going to open Hillview Lane first, and they don't have to open Columbia or Coleman until there's 50 houses in there. So they're going to use Hillview Lane for all the construction traffic in there. There's nothing in this document that says Hillview Lane can't be used for construction traffic for some period of time. It says the Coleman Avenue entrance can't be used for construction traffic until all of the improvements they promised to do are done. So they're going to use Hillview Lane for construction traffic until such time as they get around to opening the others. It's hard for me to understand how this is in the best interest of the city. It really is. It's in the best interest of the development for sure. But for the city, no, not right now. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe when there have been improvements to these other roads. I mean, how is this in our best interest? How is that serving the current citizens of Franklin? We're all aggravated every day sitting in traffic, every day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every day of the week. And we're going to put 250 more houses on these roads. It just is unbelievable to me that this is what we're talking about. And as far as this TDOT study from 25 years ago, to say that everybody approved it, the reason they approved it was because TDOT was going to tear the whole thing down, the whole tree-lined lane down. The
Okay.
approval was
Thank
there
you
one
for
way
your
they could
comments.
avoid having that destroyed. So
Okay.
that's 25 years ago, and that's just, they're
Thank-
accelerating
thank you for
the
your
destruction
comments.
of this lane by decades.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the item for resolution to annex, a proper motion will involve a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a motion for this item?
Move for approval to the board, mayor and alderman.
We have a motion to approve and a second. A second by Commissioner McLemore. Is there any discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Item number 17, consideration of ordinance 2025-06. This is an ordinance to zone 311.21 acres to planned, that's PD 0.78, 32,080 district, and Hillside Hillcrest Overlay, HHO district, for the property located west of Hillview Lane and north of Coleman Road at 1247 Hillview Lane, Harlan PUD subdivision. Staff?
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to zone the property at 1247 Hillview Lane to Planned District, should the plan of services and annexation be approved by the board, mayor, and aldermen. The subject property consists of a little more than 311 acres and is currently in the county and zoned MGA1. Envision Franklin places this parcel into the Village Green design concept, which states that these areas provide the ability to establish a wider variety of housing options while prioritizing the preservation of open space. Desirable natural features should be identified first and set aside as part of the required 70% open space. It further states that commercial uses within the Village Green should serve the village and surrounding areas, but should not generate significant regional traffic. For this property, Envision Franklin provides a special consideration regarding hospitality use. It states that hospitality uses are appropriate as a secondary use within Village Green if sized appropriately, and the building massing is in keeping with the location and design as indicated on the development plan, and have a maximum of 80 keys. The accompanying development plan proposes 242 residential units in a variety of housing types, 32,000 square feet of non-residential space, and 80 hotel keys. The zoning as proposed is consistent with the recommendations of Envision Franklin. The applicant is also requesting to modify and establish the Hillside Hillcrest overlay on the property as part of the zoning request. The applicant has supplied visuals of the proposed HHO boundaries against the existing contours and tree line of the property. The existing boundaries derive from a combination of protecting steep slopes, existing tree canopy, and the bases of existing hillsides. The proposed revision of the HHO line southwest of the creek is minimal and maintains the same form of the existing boundary, adjusting to steep slope data in the area. The HHO revision on the southern property line follows the same slope criteria and preserves more of the hillside than the existing boundary. Based on the rationale and existing conditions of the property, staff is supportive of the proposed HH boundary revisions. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board, Mayor, and Aldermen to approve ordinance 2025-06. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments on this item? Angie Lovell.
Hi, I'm Angie Lovell from 1175 Hillview Lane. I sent y'all an email and I'm grateful that you have reviewed it. I just wanted to add, after seeing the presentation, you know, really, y'all have a hard job. traffic is the biggest agitator of us all, and I'm sure traffic is our biggest daily headache, and I'm sure what y'all hear about traffic is your biggest headache. And I'm afraid that this development is going to make that a migraine. The picture that you saw that they put on the slide of Hillview Lane and how they're going to widen it and put a sidewalk, that's beautiful. The thing is that it doesn't show the whole picture. That road is awfully curvy. There are so many twists and turns on that road that even after they widen it, I just am really concerned about how it's going to work if you add 500, 600 more cars going back and forth several times a day. I genuinely I can't see how that's going to reasonably work for anybody. The Village Green concept is a wonderful concept. It's really beautiful. I love preservation and I love nature. That's why I live on Hillview Lane. The thing is that I think that the hills, all those hills and all those steep slopes would naturally protect a lot of that land if it stayed zoned for a state residential or something like that. I think a lot of the land would still be preserved naturally. So I think maybe the Village Green is really important for flat land that needs help being preserved. But for this hilly land, I think that nature is already preserving it for us. But regardless, that's up for debate. The thing is that the current residents, the way the traffic is going to affect everyone, including we've got Garnet Farms coming in also, it's just going to be a nightmare, I'm afraid. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, again, a proper motion will be a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval recommendation to the board and mayor and alderman.
We have a proper motion by Commissioner Orr. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Williamson. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I met earlier this week with the applicant, Mr. Gamble, to talk about the traffic, because that is my biggest concern. I think the development is beautiful, but I travel those roads every day. And this is, I want, Jimmy, if I'm wrong here, please correct me if I'm wrong. But my understanding is that the traffic study required was for Coleman Road intersection, Mac Hatcher, and Columbia intersection. And I do think that the improvements being proposed for those intersections are going to improve the traffic flow. My bigger concern is as you travel east on Mac Hatcher to Lewisburg Pike and up to Royal Oaks, that's a one-lane road. And I don't fully understand what the plan is or the timing for that Mac Hatcher expansion from 96 to Columbia. And my view, I don't know that any part of this part of town is ready for development until that corner quadrant of Mac Hatcher is ready. So I guess two questions, Jimmy. One, do you agree with the traffic study that was just discussed? I do think 40, 50 cars a day based on the number of houses does seem low, but I know that those are very, in-depth traffic studies. And then two, can you help me understand what the southeast quadrant of Mac Hatcher plans are and what the timeline might be and how this all works together?
Yes, we do agree with the traffic study. It was reviewed by the city and our third-party consultant, and was prepared by the consultant of the developer. So 3 professionals and groups have looked at this and reviewed it. The numbers that were referenced, about 40 or so vehicles, that was peak hour trips, not daily vehicles. So I think that's where there may have been a little bit of confusion. I do want to add, before I get to the southeast quadrant of Mac Hatcher, that the improvements that are referenced prior to roadways being opened are generally in the comments, the off-site road improvements. So what you'll see with this development is the extension of the Mac Hatcher around Hillview Lane first. You'll see Coleman Road improved first. You'll see Columbia and Henpeck improved first prior to any residences occupying homes. So other than up to a certain amount, there's allocations for 30 or so with one access and up to 50 prior to some of those improvements being. I can get in those details if you'd like, and I know the applicant has those as well. So this is a little different than most projects because the off-site improvements are going to happen sooner than they normally would. Columbia Avenue project, we're in 18 or so months into right-of-way acquisition on the widening of that. Probably got another 18 months to go, and then 2 or 3 years of construction. So that puts that timetable in your mind. Now, Southeast Mac Hatcher, the most recent TDOT 10-year plan has put that project back in. It's a $100 million project. We are actively working with TDOT to provide funds and help match some of the contribution they would have to put into the project. There's no horizon on it now. They've got it in their 2032 project plan, but we're actively trying to move forward with providing additional funds to get that elevated to the top and funded much sooner.
What about Columbia Avenue, just beyond, outside of the Mac Hatcher Columbia intersection, going northbound? I know that there's a lot of work going on right now with trying to widen Columbia Avenue. What's the timeline on that?
So we'll be at construction hopefully in 18 months, give or take. We're doing right-of-way acquisition right now. I don't remember how many properties that have to be acquired, but it's north of 50, if I remember correctly. So it's we've hired a third party to just handle that for us, and they're actively working on that. So 3 years of construction, I would say, to be.
And how far north is that going?
Downs Boulevard.
Downs Boulevard? Okay.
Okay.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to follow up with more information and get more feedback.
You know, for transparency, Adam explained that similarly to me as well. So that corresponds with my understanding. I just wanted to confirm that. I think the struggle here is that, you know, we have, I think, an applicant willing to put money into improving the intersections close to this property, but there's just so much on this southeast side that needs improvement. But I also don't think that it's fair to hold this one applicant, one developer, to improving all of that. But I think when this comes before BOMA, I think they really ought to think hard about the timing of all of this, and particularly how they're going to address Mac Hatcher expansion on the entire southeast quadrant. Because I think that we clean up the Mac Hatcher Columbia intersection, and I'm very concerned the rest of that quadrant continues to fail for a very long time. But I also sympathize that I don't think that's this developer's. They didn't cause that problem. I don't think they're going to exacerbate that issue. But this is an opportunity to really press hard to try to get that completed. That's that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Williamson?
Yeah, I just have a question for the Mac Hatcher. As it going through, you said it's a 2032 kind of project plan, $100 million. When we start looking at kind of future development, when we have, you know, projects like this, similar to this, start to build up around the corridor. I know there's the Agra neighborhood going in also along there. How much, if any, can that be used to kind of accelerate some of this stuff or put it as a higher priority with the state for funding and also for time?
Well, there's a lot of money that a lot of municipalities are going for, so it's complicated. We're highly motivated. We're one of the top growing places, Middle Tennessee and the state. So it's really all of that just recently came about to where the project was actually added back in, because it was not even on the 10-year plan at the end of last year. So it's encouraging that it's there, and we have the ability to participate where most municipalities may not. So that's a big incentive to get it done. And I don't have an update right now. I know that Paul and the team are actively working with the folks at Region 3 to get it moved to the top of the list as soon as possible.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Okay, we have a proper motion for recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Orr and seconded by Commissioner Williamson. By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Item number 18 is a consideration of Resolution 2025-26. This is a resolution approving a development plan for the Harlan PUD subdivision with 15 modifications of development standards addressing building elements, parking, glazing, open space for the property located west of Hillview Lane and north of Coleman Road at 1247 Hillview Lane. Staff presentation, Joey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant has submitted a development plan for the Harlan PUD subdivision that includes 242 residential units, 32,000 square feet of non-residential space, and 80 hotel keys. The buildings range from 1 to 3 stories in height, and Vision Franklin places this parcel into the Village Green design concept. The plan includes a variety of housing types, including single-family, townhouse, duplex, and small-scale multifamily with a maximum of 12 units per building. Also included is more than 200 acres of open space and a variety of both passive and active uses of the preserved area. For Village Green, Envision Franklin recommends that commercial areas are intended to be comprised of neighborhood-scale uses as well as boutique uses that are complementary to the neighborhood. Neighborhood-scale commercial is encouraged to utilize residential above the commercial to activate and support the retail environment. Small-scale multifamily buildings and townhomes within the neighborhood village may be up to 3 stories in height. The plan proposes what they are calling north and south villages that offer a tight cluster of commercial options adjacent to public gathering spaces that create unique live, work, play experiences. The height, scale, and massing of the proposed villages are in keeping with the vision of Village Green. The hotel complex that is being proposed is located in the central part of the development and meets the recommendations for this special consideration for the property. Due to the location and state of the existing road network, the development will be capped at 30 residential units until 2 connections are constructed and accepted by the Franklin Fire Department. The development will then be capped at 50 units until the roadway improvements to Columbia Avenue, Henpeck Lane, and Coleman Road are completed and accepted by both the city and TDOT. The plan also includes an extension of McHatcher and a rerouting of Hillview Lane in order to preserve the tree-lined section on the eastern end of Hillview. There are 15 modification of standards requests in this plan that address building elements, open space, signage, parking, and sidewalks. The following is the list that I will go through in detail, and just list them all. Just bear with me, there are 15 of them. MOS number 1 is a request to allow a 5-foot or a 22-foot minimum setback from a MUSE right-of-way specific to lots 84 through 86 and 92 through 105. When facing a MUSE, the rear facade or property line shall have either a pedestrian door, 4 feet clear path to the principal building, or gate. For alley-loaded garages, Chapter 6 of the ordinance requires at least 22 feet from a MUSE right-of-way. When facing a MUSE, the rear facade shall have a pedestrian door. Staff has several concerns about this MOS request, with the primary concerns centering on emergency access. The MUSE alley serves as the only fire apparatus and emergency services alley routes to lots 87 through 91. Allowing structures like garages to be built just 5 feet from this critical access way significantly increases the risk of obstruction. A 5-foot setback effectively creates a small parking pad directly adjacent to the MUSE alley. Experience shows this configuration strongly encourages residents or guests to park vehicles partially or wholly within the MUSE RO right-of-way, especially if the MUSE is perceived as wider than necessary. The standard 22-foot MUSE width and the 22-foot garage setback are intentionally designed to discourage such parking and maintain absolutely clear passage. If the MUSE alley becomes blocked for any reason, particularly by illegal parked vehicles, facilitated by these minimal setbacks, the ability to access homes during a fire or medical emergency is severely compromised or eliminated entirely. The fact that these lots front a public street does not mitigate this risk, as the access is required for effective emergency operations. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 1. MOS number 2 is to allow decorative door surrounds with enhanced architectural details as an alternative to porches, stoops, and balconies for the house building type. Section 6.3 of the ordinance requires that front facade of each dwelling shall have a covered porch, covered stoop, or balcony over the main entrance. This requirement is to ensure that both people and deliveries have some form of shelter from the elements while entering and exiting the building. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 2. MOS number 3 is to allow decorative door surrounds with enhanced architectural details as an alternative to porches, stoops, and balconies for the townhouse building type. Similar to MOS number 2, this requirement is to ensure both people and deliveries have some form of shelter from the elements while entering and exiting the unit. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 3. MOS number 4 is to reduce the finished floor elevation to have no minimum when a home office is in a live-work condition. The Board of Mayor Alderman has approved such requests in the past. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 4. MOS number 5 is a request to allow for 2 ground floor units to be ganged off a shared entry and not require a direct individual ground floor entrances. 3 to 4 ground floor units on the street-facing facade require a minimum of 2 entries, either shared or to an individual unit. Section 6.8 of the zoning ordinance requires multifamily buildings with facades along a street or internal drive to have individual entrances to all publicly accessed ground floor uses and all ground floor dwelling units. Due to the small-scale nature of the multifamily in the development and the limited number of units on the ground floor, staff can support the request. However, per condition 103, the applicant must revise the MOS language to allow for a maximum of 2 ground floor units on the street-facing facade to be ganged off a shared entry and not require individual entrances, to remove redundant language and clarify the maximum number of entrances on the street-fronting facade. Staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS number 5. MOS number 6 is to allow neighborhood village buildings to be at an angle from the frontage, limited to lot 23 only, and because of this limitation to only 1 lot, staff recommends approval of MOS number 6. MOS number 7 is to change maximum glazing for upper floors on commercial mixed building types to 85%. This would allow for more creative building design and a variety of tenant options, so staff recommends approval of MOS number 7. MOS number 8 is to remove the transom requirement above the storefront display windows. The applicant has provided designs and conceptuals as well as additional context and historical precedents for this request. Therefore, staff recommends approval of MOS number 8. MOS number 9 is a request to allow for the use of singular rural path or a combination of a rural path and sidewalks on opposite side of the road. Section 9.7.1 of the ordinance requires that sidewalks and curb be required on both sides of public and private streets and internal drives. The applicant has made this request to allow for a more rural pattern development. The MOS limits the request to those on specific sheets within the development plan package. Due to the limited nature of the request and the applicant's desire to create a rural setting that is still pedestrian friendly, staff can support the request. So staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS 9. MOS 10 is a request to utilize Central Franklin overlay parking requirements. There is an overall reduction in parking standards for the Central Franklin overlay part of the city. The applicant is creating a similar environment to the north and south villages, and because of this shared parking nature of the development, staff recommends approval of MOS number 10. MOS number 11 is to establish minimum parking guidelines for small-scale multifamily of 2 off-street parking stalls per residential unit. Requests like this have been approved by the Board of Mayor Alderman in the past, and because those required spaces are still off-street and less than 10 parking spaces would overall be affected with the plan, staff recommends approval of MOS number 11. MOS 12 is a request for stormwater management features to occupy up to 85% of the neighborhood amenity when treated as a site amenity and designed pursuant to Section 16 or Section 17.5, and this would be specific to Lot 79. Section 11.5 of the ordinance dictates that stormwater management features shall not be counted as open space. The applicant is requesting to allow such features to occupy up to 85% of the neighborhood amenity. After review, staff is supportive of the request with the modified language that stormwater management features only occupy a maximum of 60% of the neighborhood amenity. Additionally, the open space must have pedestrian and public activation around the entirety of the stormwater feature for active public use. Staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS 12. MOS 13, similarly, is a request for stormwater management features to occupy 85% of the pocket park when treated as a site amenity, specific to Lot 159. So similar to MOS 12, after review of the request, staff can support this MOS provided that the applicant provide the illustration and condition of approval 161 to show how Lot 159 will provide public and pedestrian activation around the entirety of the stormwater feature. Staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS 13. MOS 14 is to add additional elements among the required features of a pocket park, including trellises, arbors, informational signage, hammock areas, nature-based play areas, gathering spaces, outdoor gaming areas, pedestrian bridges, and overlooks. Section 11.6 of the ordinance requires pocket park to offer 4 of the 5 following features: seating elements, canopies or gazebos, furnishings, fountains or sculptures or art, playgrounds. Staff has reviewed the request and understands the applicant's desire to offer different and unique features within the various pocket parks. However, some of the requested features are redundant to what is already allowed within the pocket parks. Staff supports this MOS provided that the applicant modify the language and remove references to informational signage and all features listed in the proposed Section F, as they are redundant to those listed in Section C. Staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS 14. MOS 15 is to allow for irregular shaped signage. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen has approved similar requests in the past, so staff recommends approval of MOS number 15. That was a lot of them, so I made a quick reference sheet for you. So as you're going through the approval process, that's for your reference, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have. So with all of that in mind, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve with conditions Resolution 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Is there any public comment for this item? Okay, I'll turn it back over to the applicant.
Thank you, Joey. First, I want to say thank you to staff for working with us on the modification of standards. We're really pleased that there are so many that staff could support and that we work together hard on. The nuances of the Village Green neighborhood with rural preservation and the little village makes for some very specific requests, and all of these requests are very unique just to the Harlan proposal that's in front of you tonight. This first modification of standards, second and third, these are all 3 that staff's recommending disapproval. There are 2 different types of alleys in the city of Franklin. One is a normal alley, and the second is a muse alley. Because the lots that are shown here in blue face onto an open space, they're required to have a muse alley behind them. The muse alleys are shown here in purple. On a normal alley, the city of Franklin gives the builder the option, battery running low, gives the builder the option of locating the garage at either 22 feet or 5 feet. 5 feet would prevent a car from parking behind the garage on the alley, leaving it open and clear all the way through. 22 feet would allow for a car to park behind the garage. We are committing that the lots that are shown here in blue would have the 22-foot driveway. What this modification of standards requests is off of a muse alley, the lots shown in pink, we would like to have the ability to have either a 5-foot setback for a garage or a 22-foot driveway, because the lots that are in pink can be served off the alley and the street that's in front of them. If this modification of standard is approved, we're also committing to providing fire sprinklers for the homes that are fronting onto the open space. So that's in this modification of standards. For modification of standards numbers 2 and 3, they're basically the same request. One is for a single-family house type, the other is for a townhome type. Right now, the ordinance requires porches, stoops, and balconies for these two building types at the front entrance. We're asking for decorative door surround to be added because Georgian-style architecture, federal-style architecture are very, very traditional Middle Tennessee architectural types. And they are defined by their decorative door surround without a porch, without a stoop. And so we just want that ability to stay true to that architectural style, and that's the intent and purpose behind that request. But I have other images on all 15 modification of standards. If you have any questions about any of them, please don't hesitate to ask. We're happy to talk through it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will handle this with a main motion. And then prior to voting on that motion, we'll handle each of the modification of standard requests. So a proper motion for this main motion for this item will be a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So with that, is there a main motion for this item?
Move for approval to the board and mayor and alderman.
Is there a second? Start with you, Scott. Okay, we have a proper main motion to recommend approval to Board of Mayor and Alderman by Commissioner Orr and seconded by Commissioner Harrison. We will deal with the modifications of standards.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I have a quick question before we get to the modification of standards.
Yep.
Can you walk me through the timing of the intersection improvements with the construction of the houses again, one more time? Like how many you have to when you have to construct the lighting? I think.
I probably am speaking on behalf of most of the people in the audience, but I think everybody's having maybe a little trouble hearing folks at the commission level. But I believe the question was, can I walk you through the house phasing and the infrastructure? Was that right?
Yes, like when you're required to build, they improve the intersections at each one.
And Jimmy and Joey, correct me if I misspeak on this, but I believe the fire code, or Andy, I believe the fire code that speaks to any development sets a criteria of 30 lots or houses based on a single family lot type. If there are other housing types, it may be earlier, but in this particular case, there are 30 homes that I believe have been placed under a condition where you could build that off of one entry. The second entry is required at that point. But in this particular project, in addition to the fire requirements, there are upgrades recommended due to traffic. So kind of forget fire for a moment. That kicks in at 50 lots. And so at 50 lots, I believe the recommendation is that the Coleman Road and Henpeck improvements be complete, or we're stalled out at 50 lots indefinitely, if I understand that right. There is a additional comment in there, and Jimmy, correct me if I misspeak on this, that says that the plans for these offsite improvements shall be submitted with the first phase. So this is not a scenario where we're waiting at the last minute to even work on the plans, but staff is asking for those plans to be submitted with the initial submittals. We are in agreement of all of that. One component that is a little confusing, and one of the neighbors spoke to a comment that was provided in staff reports about a gate on Coleman Road. I believe that is due to a safety concern in saying that they don't want Coleman Road open unless it is complete. We completely agree with that. Our goal on Coleman Road is that, I say goal, the fact is that the electric and water for this project are fed from Coleman. So you all have seen enough infrastructure submittals in your day to know that in order to deliver that infrastructure, we also have to deliver the roadway. Our goal is to build Coleman, or I'm sorry, the road from Coleman in the initial phases so that we are not in kind of conflict with the 30 or the 50 types, because we have to have water and electricity to serve the homes there anyway, and the capacity is not there on the existing lines that are fed from Hillview. So hopefully that answers your question, but happy to dig in any more.
Just to make sure I understand, so in order to build your 51st lot, you have to have the intersections of Coleman and Henpeck synchronized lighting as reflected.
Correct. And I believe, if I understand this correctly, in order to build our first home, Mac Hatcher has to be done.
Okay. Jimmy, is that right? Okay. Cool. Thank you. That was my question.
Commissioner Williamson.
I have a question for kind of the construction access to this. Will the tree tunnel of Hillview Lane be used at any point for access of construction vehicles?
I believe the question was, will Hillview Lane tree tunnel be used for access of construction vehicles?
That's correct.
We do not anticipate that. At some point, we have to start construction. So there will be at some point a delivery of the initial piece of infrastructure or piece of equipment to start infrastructure. But at this point, we don't envision Hillview Lane tree tunnel being used for any construction access. Again, commenting about the Coleman Road improvements, what we have said to the neighbors in our private meetings with them is that we want to use that road as the construction access. It's not commented in the conditions of approval from staff, but our comments to the neighbors is that we want the Coleman Road access to be the construction entry for our project from day one. And I believe the other reason why Mac Hatcher is supposed to be built from our first home is that we don't want to use Hillview Lane at any point for the call it the vertical construction activity, right? So when the laborers are showing up to build trusses and deliveries and things like that, Mac Hatcher would be fully complete kind of in that time frame.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I was picturing in my head. If you have, a truss vehicle coming through there, oversized load, that it might unintentionally trim some trees, and I know that's not, we have to be careful about that. So.
Correct.
Okay, you're good? Okay. Any other questions?
For
comments?
Hillview Lane as it exists today, the residents will not be able to use that at all to drive on. It's going to be multi-use next to it, but it won't be able to be used at all by the residents there.
The portion of Hillview Lane that is proposing to be call it abandoned and turned into a bike trail is the area that is affectionately known as the tree tunnel. So that would be the area that's parallel to Mac Hatcher. And our goal is to mimic the reports that are on City of Franklin's own engineering website and to turn that into a bike trail and add that to Winstead Hill. So that canopy would be preserved. We met with the Heritage Foundation yesterday, and our goal is to work with them, should this get approved, to work on interpretive signage, to tell about the history of it being, as the Heritage Foundation and Ms. Pierce pointed out 20 years ago, a heritage roadway. And we want to bring light to the history of the Winstead family and what that occurred on that property with that farmer and things of that nature. And there's a cemetery right near TSC near the entrance that would also be highlighted as part of that process. So hopefully that answers your question with regard to what part of the road would stay and or not stay, but kind of be abandoned through that process.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. So we will deal with modification of standards number 1. And note that Fire Marshal Andy King is here, so there are fire-related issues associated with this too. So modification of standards number 1 is a request to allow a 5-foot or a 22-foot minimum setback from a Muse ROW right-of-way specific to lots 84 through 86 and lots 92 through 105. When facing a Muse, the rear facade or property line shall have either a pedestrian door, 4-foot clear path to the principal building, or a gate. So that's modification of standards number 1, and we do have a recommended disapproval by staff. So is there a motion on modification of standards number 1?
Staff recommendations.
With staff recommendations? To deny the modification of standards.
I'm approving what staff is recommending, to disapprove.
And is there a second on this item?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Williamson? So the motion essentially is to go with staff recommendations to deny MOS number 1. Is there any discussion on this item?
Can we get a little more detail from staff of why they were against this modification?
Yes, sir. Speaking about the Muse alleys, the issue is that it was essentially set up for when you had green space, and then the only road frontage that would serve the home would be from the rear of the property. And so that intentionally had to be wider than normal. So a typical alley might be 16 feet of pavement, but these alleys are going to be, the Muse alleys are much wider than that. And so our concern is if you allow people to park with only the 5-foot pad, the intent was you couldn't park a car there on a traditional alley. But with that additional width of the Muse, you potentially say, well, now there's enough space here and I can park my car in this little 5-foot spot now, and now I'm going to overhang, but I'm really not blocking anything. And the concern there is that that Muse alley is the only access to all of those blue shaded lots there. And so it has to be protected. The other implication of this, which is not specifically referenced in the modification of standard, but when you build large combustible homes with detached alley loaded type garages, those garages are not typically protected by fire sprinklers because there's no heat. And so you're also building those up within 5 feet of the primary road. So instead of having a front setback like you would on a normal house, we end up with garages closer together on the primary road to serve there, and it's just not a typical setup. So there's a lot of concerns there. The next one that you run into with this layout, if you notice, I believe it's lot number 87. Lot number 87 is deemed residential, but it's not residential. It is multifamily. It could be a 6-unit apartment. It could be a 6-unit townhouse in a different configuration that puts a huge structure back there, only served off a much smaller Muse alley. To me, the intent and staff intent of having the Muse alley was not this scenario. And so we have a lot of objections to a lot of the layout there and a lot of the ways that the housing products are shown. I hope that's clear.
And it makes no difference if they were going to sprinkle those residents or not.
No, and that's the other part of it. Depending on which Muse alley width that the developer chooses, if they choose the even more narrow one that the city allows, they have to sprinkler those anyway. So we're not getting any benefit there. And then the other concern is the garages are never sprinklered because they're typically not heated, and there's no way to have a wet pipe economical sprinkler system to protect those.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments? So we have a motion to deny MOS number 1. That's a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Do you plan on sprinkling the garages or no? Would you, I mean, I know it sounds like that would be atypical. I understand why, but it's possible. would you be agreeable to
I'm
sprinkling?
sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, are you planning on sprinkling the garages for those units that you were going to sprinkle? Would that include the garage?
Yeah, if that was a condition that the commission chose to place, we would be happy to sprinkle the garages and require that of our builders, and could work with the fire department for heat tracing and other things to make sure those are protected, even if the garages needed to be conditioned.
I mean, I think that would make me more comfortable. I mean, it seems like we have kind of a belts and suspenders approach, you know, if we denied the modification of standards, but with the sprinkling of the garage and the full building, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think that conditioning the garages might work, but it's only going to solve part of that problem. The bigger issue for me is just the overall density and the fact that we're proposing multifamily, multi-unit townhouses, all packed in, only served off this MU. So you had those two smaller roads back in there, and then you had a couple of dead-end driveways. And so you just get a lot of congestion there. It is the primary route for at least 4 or 5 of those. The MU is complicated at best, and city staff several years ago worked hard to get this to an area where we could compromise on and make it successful. And I feel like this is trying to take the best of both worlds, and it's really going to create a very tight, narrow Muse Alley that is not the intent there. And so it does worry me long term, with or without sprinklers. We have addressing issues. We have a lot more density in the number of units there. And that's really not even counting the ones, if you look at, I think it's lots 83, 84, 85. We're going to have a lot of people using that Muse Alley as their primary drive to access the rear of those structures, because there are no other curb cuts anywhere in that area. So it's really a lot of factors that have gone into our recommendation to disapprove.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Commissioner Williamson?
Me looking at this, you know, I'm in favor of disapproval on this one, but from architectural standpoint, you design buildings how you design them, and then there's the ways that people use them, and sometimes those are two different things. So when you have a fire marshal kind of weighing in there, just saying this is a concern, even from an architectural standpoint, I'm like, I know what I would do with my Honda Civic. I have to stop for a little bit. I'm gonna just shove it in there, run in, talk to somebody, get out. And I know from the life safety standpoint, which I'm really big on, if some event were to happen, maybe they're only there for a little bit, but all of a sudden you can end yourself up in a real bad position where life safety can't get to you, can't get to your neighbors. And so it's just that possibility is enough for me to just think we need to recommend disapproval on that one.
Okay. Okay, by roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
and this is a motion to deny, so, okay. Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Aye. That motion passes. That's a motion to deny. Okay, modification of standards number 2 is a request to allow decorative floor door surrounds with enhanced architectural details as an alternative to porches, stoops, and balconies for the house building type. Again, this is a MOS that the staff recommended disapproval on. Is there a motion on this item?
I'll move for approval. Recommendation in the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
A recommendation of approval?
Of approval. So
Okay.
yes, it would be approving the MOS.
Second. Oh, you go ahead. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner McLemore.
Do we need to get a reason since this is against the staff
Yeah, I think
recommendation?
I'll give a reason since I'm recommending something different than staff's recommendation. I think this is an architectural feature that is very unique to this this design concept. And I think I understand that I've talked through and thought through, what the reasoning for having the covering, and I'm still not entirely sure what that is, to be honest. And so I think we're comfortable without having that overhang.
Okay. Any further discussion? Commissioner Williamson?
Yeah, I just think there's historic precedence for this. There's examples all throughout Franklin for it. And not even just some of the more historic homes, but even, the stuff built in the 70s, most of those don't have covers. I used to live in a house that didn't have a cover. So I think as far as creating a variety and texture in Franklin, I see that as important. I think if, everything has the same stoops, you start to unintentionally kind of get the same cookie cutter feel when you're trying to create variety, especially with the different types of homes and variety that we really want to achieve.
Alderman Peterson?
Well, I was thinking the same type of thing in the sense that there are plenty of houses that are, I think they were called, some kind of classic Georgian or federal house, fronts of the houses that didn't have the porch and everything. For example, the house that we have doesn't have an overhang or anything like that. We have a screened-in back porch, if we wanted to sit out on the porch and do things. So I have had a concern whenever the city had planned that everything would have to have a porch and there. So I was glad to see this.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think they may be having a hard time hearing us because people are doing this. I guess we need to speak louder. Can you all hear us okay? They can't hear. Okay, so we need to speak, we need to holler because they can't hear because I see people trying to do this the whole entire night. So they don't know what we're saying. So I just wanted to make that comment. I guess we need to just
Okay.
talk louder.
Okay. Thank you, Alma.
We'll try to ask IT. I'm going to work on it. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Motion made by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner McLemore. There's no further discussion. By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 3 is a request to allow decorative door surrounds with enhanced architectural details as an alternative to porches, stoops, and balconies for the townhouse building type. Staff had also recommended disapproval on this item. Is there a motion on the item?
Move to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the same reason as the last one.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on this item? This is the same as the last item, except it's for townhomes as opposed to houses. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen, she's out. Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. The MOS has passed. Modification of standards number 4 is a request to reduce the finished floor elevation to no minimum when a home office in live-work conditions. Staff recommends approval on this item. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
You have to holler in there.
Okay, so we have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner McLemore, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion or questions on this item? Seeing none, by roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. The MOS is passed. MOS number 5, request to allow for 2 ground floor units to be ganged off of a shared entry and not require a direct individual ground floor entrance. 3 to 4 ground floor units on the street facing facade require a minimum of 2 entries, either shared or to an individual unit. Again, staff recommends a recommendation of approval on this item. Is there a motion?
Move for approval with staff conditions.
And that second was Scott. Okay. So we have a proper motion recommending approval with staff conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any final discussion on this item? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 6 is a request to allow neighborhood village buildings to be at an angle from the frontage, and this is limited to lot number 23 only. This is staff recommends approval to BOMA. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Who made that motion? Scott? And seconded by Commissioner, okay. Okay, we have a proper motion recommending approval to BOMA, made by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 7 is a request to change maximum glazing for upper floors to up to 85%. Staff recommends approval on this item. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
And I'll second.
We have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Williamson. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 8 is a request to remove the transom requirement above storefront display windows. Staff recommends approval on this item. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner McLemore, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Modification of standards number 9 is a request to allow for the use of a singular rural path or a combination of a rural path and sidewalks on opposite side of the road. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval. We'll recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Approval with conditions. By Commissioner Mann, and was that Alma? Okay. To have a proper motion recommending approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner McLemore. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 10 is a request to utilize Central Franklin Overlay CFO parking requirements. Staff recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a motion?
Recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner McLemore. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 11 is a request to establish minimum parking guidelines for small-scale multifamily of 2 off-street parking stalls per residential unit. Staff recommends approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a motion on this item?
Recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
And that's an approval with staff conditions.
Okay, we have proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. By Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 12. There's a request for stormwater management features may occupy up to 85% of the neighborhood amenity when treated as a site amenity and designed pursuant to section 17.5 specific to lot 79. Staff recommends approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on this item. Is there a motion?
Move for approval with staff conditions.
Second.
That was you, Mike. Nick. We have a proper motion recommending approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Mann. Is there any discussion on this item? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 13 is a request for stormwater management features may occupy up to 85% of the pocket park when treated as a site amenity and designed pursuant to section 17.5 specific to lot number 159. Staff recommends approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on this item. Is there a motion?
Recommend for approval to Board of Aldermen with conditions.
Second.
We have a proper motion recommending approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Williamson, seconded by Commissioner Mann. Any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 14. Request to add additional elements along the required features of a pocket park, including trellises, arbors, informational signage, hammock areas, nature-based play areas, gathering spaces, outdoor gaming areas, pedestrian bridges, and overlook. Staff recommends approval with conditions to BOMA on this item. Is there a motion?
Recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. There is no conditions on 15. We're on 14 or 14?
Yes, that's conditions.
With conditions, sorry.
And a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion recommending approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, made by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 15 is a request to allow for irregular shaped signage. Staff recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there a motion?
Recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
You have a proper motion recommending approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner McLemore. Any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Okay, we've been through all of the 15 modifications of standards. We can go back to our main motion. So this would be a motion recommending approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen with the modifications of standards as voted. Is there any further discussion on our main motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I don't think I need to change the motion because we are making a recommendation for approval, but I would encourage BOMA to consider adding a condition that before any improvements are constructed on the site, the interchange at Coleman Road and Henpeck be completed. My concern with the 50 house threshold is that 50 houses is a pretty good amount on an already failing road intersections. It's a lot of tradesmen coming in and out. Without those improvements, I fear that they're going to go straight down Hillview or just make Columbia Avenue even worse. So I would strongly encourage the board mayor and aldermen to add the condition that any improvements that the intersection at Coleman and Henpeck be completed prior to construction. I don't need to make an amended motion for that, but that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Obama.
Any further discussion on the main motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Speak loud.
Can you hear me now? In reference to Hillview Lane, I just feel like that should have been left so that the residents could be able to use that road, and I feel strongly about that, and I love the development. I think it's a great development, but I really would have liked to see the developers be able to keep the road for the residents to use, and I don't know if they'll be able to work around that, but I can't support that part of the project. I won't be supporting for that reason.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions, comments? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
No.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Okay. You want to take a 5-minute break? So that concludes the items for this Harlan, yeah. Our next item is item 19. You want to take a break? Okay. Let's take a 5-minute recess. All right. Item number 19, the Magnolia Green subdivision preliminary plat, creating 59 single-family residential lots and 8 open space lots on 69.0 acres located south of Murfreesboro Road and east of Watercrest Drive at 806 Murfreesboro Road. We'll go to staff presentation. Joey?
Thank you. The applicant has submitted a preliminary plat for the Magnolia Green subdivision that consists of 59 single-family residential lots and 8 open space lots. The property is zoned R2 and consists of 69 acres. The R2 district is intended to provide for single-family residential with lot sizes of at least 15,000 square feet, designed with walkable, well-connected street systems, and designed around natural features as accessible community amenities. All proposed lots in the subdivision meet the standards of the R2 zoning district, and the site layout provides substantial open space of the property. I will now turn it over to Chief Andy King to address the emergency access to Charlton Green.
Thank you, Joey. Chairman, members of the Plan Commission, I'm Andy King, Fire Marshal, City of Franklin. I'm here tonight specifically to address the critical need for an emergency access connection between this proposed development and the existing Charlton Green neighborhood. The Fire Department recommends approval of the Magnolia Green preliminary plat conditional upon the establishment of this dedicated emergency access connection. The reason is public safety. Charlton Green is an established neighborhood of approximately 70 homes and condos, nearly 40 years old, served by one point of ingress and egress, Watercrest Drive. This single access crosses a bridge and extends onto busy, unsignalized State Highway 96 East. This situation presents a significant vulnerability should that single route become impassable due to a vehicle wreck, a downed tree, a utility line issue, house fire, a gas leak, flooding, any number of potential incidents. Emergency services could be critically delayed in getting in, and the residents could be prevented from getting out. The authority is based on adopted code. It isn't just preference. It's grounded in the city's adopted safety standards. The 2018 edition of the International Fire Code, Appendix D, Section D107.1, which the city has adopted, explicitly requires 2 separate fire apparatus access roads for developments exceeding 30 dwelling units, just like in Charlton Green. This code reflects a best practice standard designed to prevent this exact type of vulnerability that exists here. Furthermore, the city's subdivision regulations support addressing connectivity and emergency access during this preliminary plat stage. And the Municipal Code, Chapter 7-225, while dealing with fire lanes, clearly establishes the fire department's role and responsibility to ensure adequate emergency access routes exist, even when involving private property. The proposed solution is reasonable and minimally intrusive. We are requiring the developer of Magnolia Green, as a condition of their approval, to construct a 10-foot wide emergency use only access path on their property leading up to the Charlton Green property line. This path would be secured by a gate, controlled and accessed only by emergency personnel during an actual emergency. It is not for public cut-through traffic. This provides the necessary secondary access with minimal impact on either neighborhood during normal times. Addressing the private alley concern, I understand the residents spoke at the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting and about the concern that the existing alleys or access points within Charlton Green are private and question the city's ability to connect. We acknowledge these are private ways. However, the fire code highlights a significant safety deficiency. The requirement we are placing on the Magnolia Green plat leverages our ability over new development approvals to create the potential emergency access at the property line. It mandates the infrastructure to be built to Charlton Green on the new development side, while the effectiveness relies on the adjacent private way being passable Establishing this connection point is the first crucial step mandated by safety codes. The principles established in the Municipal Code 7-225 underscores our responsibility to ensure necessary emergency routes, even when they interface with private property to protect life safety. Looking forward, while this requirement impacts planning related to a 40-year-old subdivision, our primary responsibility is the safety and well-being of these specific residents for the next 40 years and beyond. This controlled access provides a critical lifeline against unforeseen events that could be their only way in, that could block their only way in or out. This is a reasonable and responsible request driven by adopted safety codes and a clear need to mitigate risk. Therefore, the Franklin Fire Department strongly reiterates its recommendation for approval conditioned upon the inclusion of this gated emergency access connection and associated easement. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Joey, you got a wrap-up comment? Okay. Just the staff recommendations. Did you?
Conditions of these preliminary plat, just make
And
that
this is a
clear.
preliminary plat, so it's a decision of the planning commission.
Yes, it is a planning commission level approval.
All right. Great, thank you. Okay, I've got a stack of public comment cards. If anyone hasn't filled out a card but would still like to speak, you can fill out the card and hand it to Tia. Otherwise, I'll call out about 3 names at a time, and you can prepare to come to the lectern to speak. Again, you'll come to the lectern, identify your name and address, then we ask that you hold your comments to 2 minutes. Gwen King, John Thompson, and David Burns. If y'all would come to the lectern.
I have a very short comment to make. Mr. Green's farm is a premier piece of property that deserves more than the minimal.
Excuse me. Can you give us your name
Oh,
and
yes,
address,
I'm
please?
sorry. I'm Gwen King. I live at 107 Wren Court in Charlton Green.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Green's farm, as I said, is a premier piece of property that deserves more than the minimal standards that the preliminary plan shows. For instance, the proposed layout lacks meaningful green space. I think others in our group will be addressing that more thoroughly. But the layout of rows of houses in a straight line disregards thoughtful home placement, especially in terms of proximity to existing homes. These may seem like small details, but they matter greatly when houses are built so closely together as Charlton Green and Magnolia Green will be. Without these considerations, privacy is lost and goodwill can be compromised. The City of Franklin has well-established community development principles. We see these principles reflected in past developments in Envision Franklin and in our own favorably recognized subdivision. We are respectfully asking that the Planning Commission consider requiring that Magnolia Green adhere more closely to these principles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Burns, and I reside at 109 Eaton Court in Charlton Green. To start, my wife and I fell in love with Franklin in 1975. We were new graduates. We looked around the area and we chose Franklin. Moved into an apartment on Colony House at the end of Fair Street. So we fell in love with this city. And, you know, I look ahead of me is the seal, historic city, Franklin, Tennessee. That attracted us here. Heritage, beautiful, you know, preserved homes. And we went away for my training. I'm a psychiatrist, and came back. And I had a choice after finishing at Vanderbilt to go anywhere. We came back to Franklin. And so what I'm saying is, in this public forum, I really want to charge the developers, don't mess it up. We've got a beautiful city. It needs to be something that is developed, as Gwen said, not in a straight row after row development. It can't be that, because that is not like, it's not like our neighborhood in Charlton Green. It's a green space, as I think the developers indicated that it was going to be like other developments, and they're not exactly like that. And so I'm really asking for the developers to consider, you know, what we need to preserve a historic, charming city. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John Thompson. I live at 109 Wren Court in Charlton Green, which is next door to Magnolia Green. I want to talk about what is on the plan up there as the fire access path, which Mr. King has just spoken about, and it goes on my private property. That was not in Toll Brothers' initial program that we went to. The city told them to add a 20-foot wide path for fire trucks, and they call it a fire access path, which there's nothing in codes about any of that, as a backup emergency access, and I can understand that. This would go down our alley, which is owned by 8 individual homeowners. The only way we found out about this was when I saw some surveyors from out of state surveying my backyard. And I went out and they told me that they were on public property. And I said, no, your truck is parked on top of my corner marker, and the other corner marker is right over here. I just had that done in July. Couldn't find out anything about this from anybody. Nobody knew exactly what a fire access path was or what any rules for my alley would be about parking or contractor trucks and things like that that are always in my alley. Like today, there was a contractor truck with a trailer unloading a big lawnmower. That's not good for a emergency exit. There's problems with being in the edge of the floodplain. We've got a boundary ditch that's going, you know, the turning radius for a fire truck to get into our alley on the other end, you're going to have to go through somebody's yard. We're going to have to build a bridge over the boundary ditch that would hold something the same weight as a dump truck full of rocks. I think we need to put the brakes on this thing until we get a little of these things worked out. And I would like to encourage you all to remove the fire access path from the plan. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Carolyn Savage, Mary Pierce, Harris Pierce.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Savage. I live at 103 Tarragon Court. This is in the first part of Charlton Green. We are a small part of that before the bridge. We are lower than what is going to be this Magnolia Green. The developers have been out and already looked at what we're talking about, that we are lower than the development. And I've heard a rumor that they want to do some grading. Well, my house is even with the spring house back there, if you've looked at the plat plan. I had gone by and asked to see and get a copy of the plat plan, because on this letter, it says, subject property, map 079, parcels 09800, 09203, and 09202. Joey Byrne had just left when I got over there for a meeting and couldn't get to him. Next time, he just left the office, and then he was going to have it printed out for me. And I didn't get over there. That was my fault. He lost out to a dishwasher repairman. Sorry about that. And then when I did get over there, the office was closed, and I didn't pick it up. I still want that, because I need to see what that is. When they're building houses that are 12 feet from the property line, which is the same as ours, I need to see that. If a two-story house goes in 12 feet from a property line and that property is 20 feet higher than mine, we need to do it. This is a preliminary plat. Before that's okayed, I really think we need to do some more thought on that, if you all don't mind. I'm a Williamson County native. My family's been here since before Williamson County, was a county. And both my neighbors are natives. I know this was coming. You have to accept it. But please, let's think about it before we do any more. Just think about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Mary Pierce. I live at 103 Woodview Court. I went to the neighborhood meeting. We didn't know anything about the idea of this emergency access on our, amounts to our driveway. It's a little back alley. It's our driveway. The neighbors respect each other's alleys as private property. When the access on the other side of us goes in, that eliminates the possibility to have screening in these close quarters, landscaping, which we thought we would have. This did not require a rezoning. It was in the Envision Franklin plan that this development should be inspired by Charlton Green, but it didn't have to have a rezoning. So that isn't applicable, even though the words are there. Ewingville, Sturbridge, Bluegrass, Yorktown, all of the neighborhoods down Murfreesboro Road have one exit. If you looked at the situation, we would plea with you that you not take advantage of this opportunity. I understand it's an opportunity for something that could happen sometime, but every day we'll be looking at our alley and then an extended alley with the gate. It will be an attraction for activity in the other neighborhood that we will live with every day on our private road that we had no conversation or say about how it would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Harris Pierce. I live at 103 Woodview Court in Franklin, which is in Charlton Green. Charlton Green abuts the Green Farm, which is going to be Magnolia Green. I am in opposition of connecting Charlton Green to the fire emergency lane that will be built in Magnolia Green. Let me explain. This is my driveway that they are going to connect to. It is paved and it is maintained by us. No one pays for that. The city does not pay for it. The 8 homeowners pay for that. We are assessed. We set aside money for that. There are 8 houses on that driveway. And as my wife has already said, right now we look down there and we see a beautiful farm and we see tree lines. And now will see pavement, and our driveway will be the connection point. Hopefully, that will never be needed. I have not been in Charlton Green, but for 20 years. I have neighbors that have been there for 50 years, and they've said there has never been a reason that they could not get to every house through Watercress. So I ask that you deny that access, and I thank you for your consideration. I would also ask this: has it ever been done before on private property? Because it is private property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Susan Williams, Regina Reddish, Lynn Kauf,
My name is Susan Williams, and I live at 105 Ashlawn Court in Charlton Green. My husband and I have lived there for 44 years. We're asking you, I'm nervous, I'm sorry. We're asking you to reject this preliminary plan so that we can address some of the issues that we have with the plan, and they can redesign it. That's all, just to give us some time, because we've only had 8 days to consider, to digest all this and to consider what it might mean for our neighborhood. We're asking really more for open space problems and the general layout of the neighborhood, of the lots, which look just like a row of straight line. It's not a very imaginative design, but more importantly, the open space is all in land that they couldn't use. Yes, there's a lot of it because there's a big floodplain down at the bottom, but all of the designated 8 lots of open space are things that they couldn't build on, that they were not buildable. So they've done the minimum lot size to get as many lots in there as they can, and no open space except on either end. And they crammed all the houses together. I think I've gotten that, okay. I also just want to point out that the Toll Brothers are not local people. They're a huge company, production builders. Despite what they call luxury, they have numerous complaints. If you want to look at their evaluations at really well-respected review sites, their customers are generally very unhappy, and they get a rating level of about 1.5 out of 5, which is pretty low. So we think that the Green Farm is some of the last undeveloped land in this area, and one of the main interests is to Franklin, and it deserves a more imaginative plan that is more consistent with the neighborhoods around it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I'm Lynn Knopf. I also live in Charlton Green. I just wanted to say, again, I'm kind of struck as I hear the discussion about the Harlan subdivision. That's a local developer who knows Franklin. You can hear his concern about different things and how it relates to our community. From what we're hearing with Toll Brothers, they're an out of town one. They don't know the special nature of the Green Farm, the special nature of Franklin, and the things that are with our architecture and our settings. They're not here to talk about this plat like Boyle was here. So I just want to encourage us, the Green Farm, of course, we knew it would be developed one day, and it's a unique opportunity. It's one of the last large plats of land that we can do something really special with on the way into Franklin. And so, again, we've had 8 days with this. I'm just encouraging you to not approve it so that we just have a little bit more time so that we can make sure, everybody's sure about it, concerns are heard, and it's really something special for the gateway into Franklin. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got one more. Raina Reddish.
Good
Good evening, commission members. My name's Raina Reddish, 127 DJ out of Henley. First, I want to say, if you drove through Charlton and you drove through Henley and you look at how this neighborhood is laid out, you wouldn't think that it was very complementary to what exists there already. We do all have some concerns about the floodplain. They recently increased the floodplain to that encroaches even more into the backyards of some of my Henley neighbors. And I'm wondering if this preliminary plat is even considering the changes to the floodplain that has just recently been adopted. And maybe as you look at modifications, that we are assured that we are not going to get between the church and now this new neighborhood and the loss of green space, the loss of the ability to absorb the water that flows through the area. There is not much buffer between the back of Magnolia Green and the back of the folks on Band Drive. We would certainly want to see preservation of the tree line between the two neighborhoods. We're also we are private roads. I'm not sure where Charlton is, but we would not want to become a cut through for traffic from Ralston through our neighborhood. We would certainly want to preserve our ability to stay just a small little neighborhood. And I've heard from some of my neighbors, I haven't lived there that long. I'm a recent escapee from southern Williamson County. And the water system appears to not be pressurized as it was at one time. So I don't know if there needs to be some additional or some changes to the layout of how the water system works, loops and all sorts of things engineers have talked about. But we need to assure that our water pressure is preserved and reinstated. I think I'm the final. So I appreciate you all listening, and I appreciate you all working with us, and hope you think about us as you modify plans in the future.
Okay, thank you. All right, the applicant.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, my name is Greg Gamble. I'm a landscape architect and land planner with Gamble Design Collaborative, and I'm representing Toll Brothers tonight in their proposal of this preliminary plat. This is an R2 preliminary plat. We're not asking for a zone change. We are following the regulations of the zoning ordinance. We are not asking for any modification of standards. We have 3 points of connection to this proposed preliminary plat. The first, obviously, is right off of Highway 96 and aligns with Ralston. Oops. The second is at Welsh Lane, and then the third is at Pershing Street. Andy mentioned that the condition of approval was to add an emergency connection for this development. My client's willing to pay for the improvement to make the emergency connection, but the emergency connection is not required because we're not satisfying something that's required as a part of your ordinance and requirements of fire. This development has the connectivity that's needed for the new 57 lots. There are 59 lots in the preliminary plat. This lot right here that you're seeing adjacent to the southern boundary of Henley is going to be retained by the Green family and is intended to be a Boy Scout farm. Not farming Boy Scouts, but Boy Scouts who farm. This lot here then is the existing house. Staff asked us very early on to reapply to the State Historic Commission to see if this house would qualify as a historic house. It does not. It's had too many additions over time and it's lost that attribute. Ralston is designed to continue straight headed due east toward Lewisburg Pike. We're stopping it at the floodplain line. but we're dedicating 52 foot of right-of-way width all the way to Lewisburg Pike. In the event one day in the future, the city decides that they want to make that connection, that right-of-way will be dedicated on the plat for that purpose. We are not manipulating the floodplain line. The floodplain line is staying exactly where it is today. We've been very, very intentional about proposing a plan that stays out of the 100-year floodplain. The density that's proposed is 0.83 homes per acre in comparison to Henley, which is 1.85 homes per acre, and in comparison to Charlton Green, which is 1.38 homes per acre. This is less dense. These lots are also much larger than our adjacent neighbors. So under R2 base zone district, minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. Every lot is at least 100 foot wide on our master plan. There's a 20-foot front yard setback. There's a 40-foot rear yard setback. Where we have proposed lots adjacent to our neighbors of Henley and Charlton Green, the existing tree lines along the fence row are going to be preserved. They're going to be protected. There's no reason for us to do any grading along those areas. Side yard setbacks are 10 feet, so we're going to have a minimum of 20 feet between homes. All of these homes will have side-loaded garages, or will have a garage at the rear of the property. This is where we're talking about for the emergency connection. It is a 20-foot wide easement with a 12-foot wide path. What you're seeing over here on the right side, that full width, that is the 20-foot easement. So the path is narrower than that, smaller than that. This is the alley. You can see that there's a gap of landscape between the fence and the edge of pavement. That will remain that way. No one is proposing to add asphalt on the Charlton Green side. It will remain as it is today. There would be a 4-rail wooden fence that would be constructed and installed and locked that says fire access only on those wooden gates. With that, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, Alderman Peterson.
Just looking at, well, let's see, they're not looking at the emergency gate again right now at the very end where they're showing what's going on, you know, the very last, I guess, no, it's number 4 under that. Okay, right there. Yes. If you're looking there, this thing that you see really is a driveway back to the garages of 2 houses, one on the right and one on the left. The other thing is there is a concrete culvert that's used for stormwater to go down from the front, down, you know, down to the river there, toward Lewisburg Pike there and everything. I do not see, first of all, as was stated by some other people, how this piece of property here that you know that they're, I mean the pavement that they're talking about, as I say, it's really just a driveway to the back of people's garages on one on the right and one on the left there. And I don't know how that would necessarily even be able to be used by some large emergency vehicle there. But as I say, there's as they say, there's a big culvert there where the water is going, you know, as I say, south on there. So I really don't see how that's appropriate here at all. And has been stated from what people have told me that I guess you want to call that alley there really is belongs to the people whose houses are on that alley there. They're not necessarily. I think they have a separate cost for that are not to the HOA, you know, they're not used by money that they pay to the HOA. There's another, you know, there are other amounts, not just for this alley, but for several of them there. But as I say, the 8 houses that are on this really do not, as I say, that's really just kind of going back to people's garages there.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this item?
I had another question.
I need to just have a motion.
Yeah, I need a motion.
I move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is that with the emergency access? But that is with the emergency access you're approving? Yes, yeah, move for approval with the emergency access. Okay, thank you.
I move that
Okay.
take out the,
I've got a motion on the floor.
okay.
So there's been a motion for approval by Commissioner Mann and seconded by Commissioner Orr. Discussion?
And I want to make a motion to amend that to take out the emergency access.
Okay, I have a motion to amend. So is there a second for the motion to amend? I'm sorry. You second?
Yes.
So the motion is to amend the motion for approval by removing the emergency access
Yes.
by Alderman Peterson, seconded by Commissioner Orr. So handling the motion to amend by removing the access, is there any discussion on that motion? Yes, Commissioner Williamson?
I'm big on connectivity. That's important. You know, I know residents in there, they said in, 20 years, say even 30, however long, might seem, it's a long time, but in the event that there is an issue, something happens, and it might not even be in this new development, it could be, in the other one, you're gonna really want that connectivity. It takes seconds off of emergency vehicles being able to save a life. I'm just, really think connectivity is important, especially when you have your emergency. Fire marshal's out here. He's seen a lot more things than I ever have, any of us ever have. And so I really weigh that heavy when you have a professional coming up here, really saying, hey, this is in the interest of the community around this area. And it's not just for the new development, it would be for the others and the other as well. I guess I do have some questions though. For that kind of the alleyway there, if there's an easement that goes there for this sort of thing. And then also I know there were some concerns about kind of the visibility, and I know some of that, part of that was kind of, the existing tree line wouldn't be touched there, that there would be a gate, and that there wouldn't be actual pavement connection. Would the, like a stabilized grade or something be proposed kind of for that, where you're just driving over grass, but it's stabilized for emergency vehicle?
Okay. You want to address that, Andy?
Yes, I'll try my best. I think the important thing here is that we're trying to do a better job of planning. We've recognized that all of these subdivisions that were built 40 to 50 years ago down Murfreesboro Road were dead-end subdivisions. This one is one of the only ones that we can really correct. The new Magnolia Green has more than one connection. So this is truly to benefit the residents of Charlton Green, even though I know that's not what they believe they need. I made the statement that it's for the next 40 years. If we lose this opportunity and it develops without that and homes are built and there is no easement, that chance is gone forever. So my recommendation at this point would be go ahead and leave the easement there, and if there's some technical problem getting it to Charlton Green, to me that can be resolved later. After seeing this lots of times, because this is not an unusual concern, as you guys well know, nobody wants connectivity, but everybody wants less traffic and they want more safety and other things. But this is our chance to try to work this out. We have an applicant in Magnolia Green that's willing to construct this in whatever way works for Charlton Green. And the city of Franklin is not very picky about this. We have already, we're not asking for a road. We're not asking for full connectivity to drive through. We're saying you can gate this and forget about it. We're saying keep it as narrow as 10 feet and build it to 12 and a 20-foot easement on their property. So I understand that that's hard to take when you're going through a period of a lot of change right now, and we're empathetic to that, but we also recognize that the greater good here is the long-term safety of the community, and that's our role and responsibility to express that as a form of a very strong recommendation to this commission.
Mr. Gamble, are either of from the maps, are either of those connection points that are proposed to the east, are those, you have a place for those to go? Are there open lots on those?
So connections to the east, are you talking about
To the top of the
north
map?
to Henley? This
Yeah,
aligns
to
with
Henley.
Pershing Drive, and this aligns with Welsh Lane. Those are existing roads in Henley today.
Are there existing easements on both of those? Okay.
They're existing roadways. They're existing roadways.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to amend the first motion to remove the emergency access. Is there any further discussion on that? 'Cause there's not, go ahead.
I'd just like to ask about how that could be built over that concrete culvert, which, as I say, is a place for stormwater. I mean, it starts at I guess on Murfreesboro Road maybe, and goes all the way down behind all of those houses on Charlton Green. I mean, if you drive out there, you see it.
I saw it. It's like a ditch.
It's a ditch.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
ditch.
it is.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call a vote.
Which means you're making a motion to end debate?
Correct.
Okay.
To vote on the amendment.
Well, just don't even have a motion. Let's just vote on it. People don't understand what it is when you call the vote. That's just not a legitimate motion. Okay, so we have a motion to amend by removing the emergency access, and so let's have that vote by roll call. Commissioner Harrison
Yes.
and Commissioner Lindsay votes no. Commissioner Orr,
Yes.
Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
No.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
So that's a 4-3 vote in favor of removing the access. So let's go back to our main motion was to move for approval without now the emergency access. We have a proper motion made by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner Orr. By roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
No.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes to approve the preliminary plat. So, Mr. Gamble, I've been on that site 1,000 times. I have a son that's an Eagle Scout from Mr. Green's troop. So, to your developer, you better do that site right. Okay. Okay. Is there any other business?
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion.
Second.
That's you. We have a motion to adjourn and second by Commissioner Orr. By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson. Alderman
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.